All right, good morning, everyone. Today is April 24th, 2020. This is a special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority being held in Albany. Chairman President in Albany. And joining him is Deputy Commissioner of Licensing Roberts and myself, Secretary of the Authority Donahue. Joining us by phone are Commissioner Ford. Give a little shout out, Commissioner Ford, so everybody knows you're there.
I'm here.
Commissioner Fan, by phone.
Hi, I'm here.
And our Council to the Authority, Meyerhoff, by phone.
I am here.
Okay. We have one item on today's calendar. It's item 00543H, VS Atlantic Industries, LLC. It's a request from Council's Office for a emergency summary order of suspension. So with that, I'll turn it over to Council's Office.
Good morning, members of the board. We are seeking an emergency order of suspension due to recent and blatant violations of the Governor's Executive Order 202.3 by a licensee, VS Atlantic Industries, LLC, doing business as Atlantic Boat Club, 990 Atlantic Avenue, Brooklyn. This is a location that was licensed in 2018 and is already has significant adverse history with the authority, a summary suspension based on a pattern of violence that was resolved in 2019. The story here on the violations of the Governor's executive order begins on March 15th, 2020, which is actually the day before the Executive Order 202.3 went into effect. That is the order they are currently being charged with violating, and that is the order that restricts the service on premises of anyone in their location. Right before that order went in place, there was already an executive order in place that attempted to limit crowds due to the coronavirus. That was 202.1, and the instruction was 50% of your occupancy only, anywhere. And on March 15th, the police found 86 people inside of this small restaurant, which, by the way, has the only certificate of occupancy it has is for 10 people. It had represented to the authority when it got licensed that it would have a certificate of occupancy for 56 people. It's never obtained that C of O, but they were certainly in violation even of a 56-person order, 56 people occupancy, and having, which should have meant half of that, and having 86 people inside. And the police told them that, and the police also issued them a summons for not having the occupancy posted inside. So there was already an issue there about being insensitive to the governor's restrictions to prevent the flow of the coronavirus. The next day, the new executive order went into place, and the neighborhood coordinating officer, Austin Slamowitz, went to the location and spoke with the owner, Miss Hunt Williams, who was there the night before, and told her there's now a new order in place, and the new order means you can't serve inside. And this is not just speculation. There's documents we've provided to you that document that this notice was provided to her that day. That didn't help because 10 days later, the police found 3 patrons standing inside the bar with plastic cups, drinking alcohol. They were given a warning. It was re-explained to the bartender who was there that that's a violation of the executive order. So this is now essentially the second warning about Executive Order 202.3, but the third incident in which crowding in the bar and the coronavirus were brought to this location's attention. And then on April 14th, last week, at approximately 9:18, Officer Slamowitz and 3 other police officers found a cluster of people outside the restaurant, looked inside and saw people standing around and waiting to get in, tried to get in. The front door was locked. A security guard opened the front door, and as soon as they got in, the security guard locked the door behind them with a deadbolt. They squeezed their way to the bar. There were 14 people inside, 15 people outside. They were apparently serving a punch out of dispensers. 9 people crowded at the bar were drinking punch from plastic cups with lids and straws. And Miss Hunt Williams, the licensee's principal, was present. She was issued a summons for violating the orders, the mayor's order and the governor's order restricting on-premises services. While this was going on, a few of the police officers, after telling the man at the door, the security guard at the door, not to lock them in, they went outside and they were confronted by the crowd on the street. The bystanders and patrons who were, waiting online to get inside told these officers to take their badges off and fight with them. And, that required, more units to be called to the scene. Miss Hunt Williams, inside and understanding that she was obviously in trouble now, started asking questions about, what she could do to try to keep the premises from being occupied. That's a little too late. Everybody in that neighborhood is operating appropriately except for her. She knew better. And now she's feigning ignorance, asking, what can I do to keep people outside? Well, maybe not serving punch inside to people and having 14 people inside or clearing the crowd out would help. There are many times when these, everyone who's caught, we've seen this over and over again, will try to resort to some excuse. But it's now, we're 6 weeks into this. There is no operator at this point that can't understand that they're not supposed to have people inside their place. And to demonstrate that she was clearly not being earnest about her interest in adhering to the law, the officers explicitly told her that one thing she could do would be to take the tables away. And yet they went back the next day after this incident and found more people inside sitting at a high-top table right next to each other. This is another case where not everybody's doing it. Most people are following the law. But there's no question that this location is not. And things are getting worse out there. People are not happy with being at home. It's an unusual circumstance. And the risks of violating this executive order are growing, and the risks to the police department is growing, as seen by this incident that took place outside of this location. This is a location that became a focal point for police attention in its first year of operation, leading to that summary suspension for violence. The individual, the licensee, told the board when she got this license that this was going to be a small restaurant. It was operated as a nightclub with lots of violent incidents, and that's what led to its first skirmish, the first set of charges that resulted in the prior discipline. And now we find the licensee who went through all this standing in the midst of over a dozen people inside the premises with a locked door and mixed punch being flowing into their cups. The potential for harm to public safety and health is grave here. This is not a licensee that can be trusted to adhere to the law, and counsel's office requests an emergency order of suspension under Section 4013 of the State Administrative Procedure Act to suspend this license.
Commissioner Fan, any questions?
No, I do not have any questions.
Commissioner Ford?
No, I don't have any questions as well.
Chairman Bradley?
No questions.
You ready to vote then? Commissioner Fan?
I vote to summarily suspend this license. Very disappointed to see the Atlantic Boat Club involved in this special board meeting. As council said, we've had a history with this licensee, and they should know better. Really, they should know better. So, because of imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I vote to summarily suspend.
Commissioner Ford.
This licensee is what I would call a serial offender. She was suspended within her first year of operation, and for some reason we allowed her to open back up. And she's continually violated the law over occupancy and doesn't seem to care about it. Locking patrons inside, doesn't seem to care. Police and their infinite patience have been there several times to still insist on this behavior. So apparently she has no intention of following the law. So without a doubt, I vote to summarily suspend the
Chairman Bradley.
I vote to summarily suspend. Once again, we have multiple intentional violations of the governor's executive order that, as a result, put the safety of the public, and in particular the police officers that were required to show up at her location on multiple occasions at risk. And it's clear that they warned her multiple times, and she obviously could care less. So I vote to summarily suspend.
Okay, Chairman, I have nothing else. You have anything else?
No, thank you all.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.